All right, we're rolling on this camera 6.5 hours. We're rolling on this camera 6.5 hours.
There's some friends that are still around today. This was during that time. 9/11 was actually kind of the introduction to the fire department. I only had 8 months as a firefighter, so I was very new. This was sometime shortly after. I'm in the shadows there. It's not well, but I believe this building was that building that's there. The same building. Toronto, she's a friend of mine. We were in the academy together. Michael Kiefer, another friend of mine. Carl Joseph. A lot of good men.
Today we're honored to sit down with a true hero. Richard had just 6 months on the job as a firefighter with the FDNY when the unimaginable happened on September 11th, 2001. He not only survived that day, but years later faced another battle when he was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, a condition that has affected so many first responders exposed to ground zero. Richard's story is about courage, survival, and finding purpose through unimaginable challenges. Today we'll talk about his experience as a rookie firefighter thrown into one of the darkest days in American history, how his cancer diagnosis reshaped his outlook, and what it means to keep choosing life and health after trauma. This is going to be a powerful conversation. Is something standing between you and your happiness? It was for me. I had to face my depression and the constant negative self-talk. Therapy helped me realize I deserve to be happy. That's why this podcast is called I Choose Health, because I made the choice to heal and I want to share that with you. It's Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. 60% of you who are watching this podcast are men. And brothers, it is time to take care of yourself. As a gift to you, we've partnered with BetterHelp as our sponsor to help you start your own healing journey. We all face moments when life feels overwhelming, whether it's stress, anxiety, or just feeling stuck. Talking to someone can make a real difference. And that's where our sponsor BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp offers professional online therapy that's convenient, affordable, and entirely on your schedule. You can connect with a licensed therapist by video, phone, or even chat, whatever works best for you. Let our sponsor BetterHelp support you on your journey to better mental health. You can get 10% off your first month by going to betterhelp.com/iChooseHealth. That's betterhelp.com/iChooseHealth for 10% off your first month. Take the first step toward feeling better today. Richard Batista, welcome to the I Choose Health podcast.
Thank you so much, Stefan, for having me here. I appreciate you reaching out to us so we can talk about this today and move forward.
Yeah, definitely, man. I was really amazed by your story when we first started talking about it a couple months ago. And so I was just thinking about it, just responding to that day is crazy. So September 11th was always interesting for me because when that day happened, I wasn't even living in America at the time. I was still living in Barbados. My birthday is September 10th. And so the next day I'm just turned 11. I'm trying to process what's happening in America.
Right.
And I come home, talking to my sister, and she's telling me 4 planes crashed in America today. And I'm not making sense of that.
Right.
And that was the first time I heard the word terrorism. So Richard, take us back. What inspired you first to become a firefighter? And what were those first 6 months on the job like before 9/11?
Okay. Well, first and foremost, a little bit about my background. I'm a Puerto Rican kid from the South Bronx, grew up through the public school system, attended Cardinal Hayes High School, graduated in 91, and the first thing I wanted to do with my life was serve my community, serve my nation. I always had a sense of patriotism and wanted to do for others, so I joined the Marine Corps. That was my first thing in 1991. After joining the Marine Corps, I was in the reserve, so I did different odd jobs here and there. I did everything from sales to driving limousines, all kinds of stuff. And when I had the opportunity to join the fire department, I was attending John Jay College, and someone had introduced me to this cadet program. And within that cadet program, you could have, taken an exam and become an EMT first, and then later on take a promotionary exam to become a firefighter. So that's what I had done. So this kid from the Bronx that grew up in front of a firehouse, literally playing handball and stickball in front of a firehouse, would always see these fire trucks pass by, and I'm like, wow, that's so cool. But in the back of my head, I'm like, well, I don't know if it's for me, especially back then. All you saw was a certain type of person there, it's generally Irish guys on the back step. So I didn't really think that was for me at the time. But when this opportunity presented itself, then it was something that I would decided to move forward with. And so making that first decision to become a fireman wasn't a hard one for me. It was something that I've always wanted to do. So I took that exam, passed it, did well, and then was an EMT in Harlem from 1998 to 2000. I served in Harlem, in the Harlem hospital area, and that was some experience. Also, a job that has to be, require patience, require, not being afraid to see blood, that sort of thing. So I did that for 2 years, and when the opportunity came to take the promotional exam, I did. Got into my firehouse. I got sent over to Engine 76 on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, which is located on 100th Street, and I loved it. I thought that firehouse was a combination of some of the best men I ever worked with, and those first 6 months I was, as a probie is how we're called, it was a lot of cleaning up stuff around the house, taking care of stuff. Whatever senior man tells you to do, you do it. And so there was not much that I had experienced. A couple of fires here, small fires, maybe trash fires, car fires, small apartment fires, but nothing to the level of what I would soon experience. So obviously when 9/11 came around, that morning I was just sitting in the firehouse kitchen as any other day, and it was really a shock to see that come across the TV, that just like most Americans that day would just watch the TV and saw it on TV.
One plane has hit the upper tier, but watch the left-hand corner of your screen. The second World Trade Tower has not yet been hit. It's about 9 a.m. Here comes the plane, very high speed, cuts almost through the building. Great balls of fire, tremendous bellows of smoke. The voices you hear in the background, the people in the home or the place where these pictures were taken.
And one of my chiefs, his name was Richard Picciata, he had responded to the first attack on the Trade Center.
Now, did you have any idea that your particular unit would be sent to that site?
At that point, no, because I figured we're far up in the West Side, and initially everyone thought, someone there was a pilot error, someone crashed into a building, it was an accident, everybody was freaking out, but they said, all right, the fire department, we're well equipped to handle this, So that chief went on his own and ended up going down there. Then shortly after, we got the alarms, and by that time the second plane had struck, and that's when the light bulbs went off. This is an attack, this is not some random mistake. So soon as that happened, our alarms went off. We got on our fire trucks, and I started headed downtown to the Trade Center.
Wow. Now, what stands out most to you about that day? Was it the chaos, the bravery, the human side of it? What really stood out to you the most that day?
Wow. That's a deep question, because on so many levels. There was the bravery of the men working around us, the bravery of the civilians who withstood that. But there was so much more going on that day. I mean, it's like, here you are in a complete, most people are civilians there, right? They're just doing their normal day-to-day job, working at the financial institution, and all of a sudden they're in a war zone, you know? And I remember saying to myself that day, you know, I'm wearing the wrong uniform. I'm in my fire brigade. I should be in my Marine uniform because we just got attacked.
Right.
You know, my thinking is, this is crazy. We're being attacked and we're not in the least prepared. And people are thinking, well, are there secondary devices? Are there other bombs that are going to go off? What else could happen? But we had to put that to the side and just follow, you know, instructions from the higher ups as to what we're to do. So when we got there that day, I remember specifically, you know, what we call the backstop of the fire apparatus. There were 2 probies, myself and another job by the name of Fitzpatrick, and one senior guy, Billy Reynolds, and then the person who drove the truck, and Frank Farrington, who was our officer. So when we got there, you know, we got an assignment immediately. We went into the North Tower, and there was a chief on site basically directing people as to where they might have to go. He was just giving, you know, okay, this engine company 23, you're going to whatever, the 30th floor. This is what your assignment is. And so many fire trucks had been arriving by that time. I think by some miracle, when he got to us, he just said, you know, too many companies down here. That's what they call fire companies. And he said, I need you guys to just go back outside, wait for us. So we grabbed our roll-ups, fire hoses, and went out across the street. And shortly after that, walking out, that's when the South Tower collapsed.
Wow.
And all I remember was hearing this thunderous, you know, like a train was coming down at you. And I remember just, you know, running into a covered garage across the street. And thankfully that officer, Frank Farrington, I always thank him for that, you know, like he kind of guided us in the right direction. So we ran right behind them, followed them. If we would have gone left or right, who knows? We might have been crushed or whatever, but we went into that garage, and all of a sudden day turned into night. All the soot and debris had rolled over us, and, you know, and all of a sudden I was just choking in the garage. I couldn't breathe. All this dust had come in and just went over us, and you could feel the pellets like sandpaper, like the sand was just flying over your face, like with this tremendous force. And I covered myself up, I balled up, and all I knew was that, you know, I had to find my other coworkers, the firemen. So Frank started banging on the floor with what he calls a knee tool, so some sort of tool, Halligan tool. And I kind of heard where he was at, and he tied a rope onto some car or something and made his way out the back of the building. We followed him, and that's how we kind of got out of that situation, to later come back around and continue with firefighting and life-saving efforts, you know.
I mean, you know, 6 months on the job. I mean, I don't know if you could ever predict something like that would happen. And I don't think you've ever faced anything like that.
Right.
And 24 years later, I don't think you've faced anything like that since.
No.
Right. And I noticed that as you were like just remembering that day, I noticed that it still brought back some emotion for you. Man.
Very much so. Very much so. I have to admit, most 9/11s, I like to be by myself, and I'll sit home. And this 9/11 that just passed was no different.
Yeah.
I sat there and I bawled and I cried just to myself. And thankfully, no one was at home, because it's hard as a man. You don't want people to see you in your weakest point like that. You don't want someone to see you as a weakling, especially when you're a tough fireman, you're a Marine. I don't want to ever see my kids see that, but that's the reality to this day.
Yeah.
You know, all this time has passed, and it still strikes me so heavy. You know, it's just to have lost. Thankfully, no one in my engine company perished that day, but so many people that I knew that were in my academy class, passed away, people that I trained with, that I knew well, people that were in the academy with me, and people that were in EMS that also became firemen on their own right, that I knew from before also perished. And just to know that those families had that taken away from them. Some of them had young kids. Some of them didn't have an opportunity to have families. So it's very touching. So every year 9/11 comes around, it's very, very emotional for me.
Have you ever been able to like connect with any of those families, after?
Some, generally it's some firehouse event or something where people come and meet and gather. But I'm probably one of the few firemen that has like never actually gone to the museum, because it just brings back a certain memory that I don't, care to remember. And I don't know if it's healthy or not. Maybe I should, but I've spoken to several mental health professionals about this, and obviously it's affected me in many ways, not only my physical health, but mentally. I've suffered with PTSD and other, comorbidities. And not to mention that the following year I got activated with the Marines and was sent to Iraq to fight in Iraq.
Right.
So those 2 years were really hectic, and I've probably seen more than most people. Unfortunately, that day there was very little lives to be saved. Most people, if they didn't make it out in their early moments, they didn't make it out. I personally witnessed, people jumping from the towers and landing in front of us. Totally.
Yeah.
Something that no human should ever see.
Yeah. Now, I know that just in line with that, how did being so new on the job impact your experience with 9/11 compared to veterans around you?
Well, it's hard to speak from a veteran's point of view, because I wasn't a veteran at the time. But I do remember one thing that stood out to me. Billy Reynolds, who was a senior man in our firehouse, and he served that day. Specifically, we have it written in our firehouse. He said, as soon as the second tower struck, he says, a lot of people are going to die today. And as a probiad, there was no way I could understand that. Like, what are you talking about? We're firemen. We're going to go in there. We're going to save everybody. It's going to be good. What are you talking about? But he just knew that there's no way that amount of fuel and fire, our little hoses ain't going to do it. It's not going to be enough. Water pressure is not going to be enough. And he knew having to go up to those heights to fight a fire at that extreme amount of heat and level.
I want to know what type of emotional reaction you had to that. Like, just somebody saying, hey, a lot of us are going to,
I think it went over my head, to be honest, at the time. I was probably more in shock. I remember going down the West Side Highway from 100th Street, just looking out the window, just looking at the towers burn as I'm approaching them. And I'm saying to myself, well, we got this. We put out fires. That's what we do. It's not a big deal. But as we got closer, the gravity kind of said to me, like, wow, this building is massive. And there's no way. And it started to dawn on me too that, Billy's right. This is going to be good.
Wow.
So I was scared, but, as we're trained both as firefighters and Marines, you do your job. The outcome's going to be the outcome.
Yeah.
But you got to do your job.
So, following the events of that day, when did you become aware of, one, the cancer diagnosis, or just a change in your health overall? When did that become apparent to you?
Right.
Scary time it is. Firefighter Richard Batista is a cancer survivor. He developed thyroid cancer in his early 40s, he says, due to his work following the terrorist attacks on 9/11. He was honored Wednesday night.
So when someone takes the time out of their busy schedule to not only help raise funds, but to help do something positive, it brings a community of cancer survivors together.
Well, I remember after 9/11 having to go to doctors to speak both to, mental health and physical health professionals, and nothing was happening to me. I thought I was fine. Most people were good. I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel sick. I didn't feel anything. until one day, years later, this is in 2016, 17, I started just having problems with my nose, breathing, a lot of stuffiness. And I says, I think I'll speak to an ENT, ear, nose, and throat.
So this is almost like 15 years later.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So there was nothing immediate. But when I went to see that doctor, as part of his normal workup routine, they do what they call palpitations on to feel. And he noticed a nodule, something in my neck, and he says, I think this is something serious that we should take a look at. So they did an MRI, subsequent analysis, and they found out it was positive for what they call papillary thyroid cancer. And upon further diagnoses, they found out that I was stage 3.
Wow. So
it was already spreading into my lymph nodes and throughout my body. And I was really fortunate with the hospital I attended was Memorial Sloan Kettering. The hospital, the doctors were great there. They were just very empathetic. They said, we're going to fight this. And, luckily for you, this is one of the more treatable cancers, but it's definitely linked to that, as I had no history of any cancer in my family. So this was new for a person who was relatively young. I was in my 40s. And so when they found out, they said, this is our treatment plan. This is what we're going to do. And, I had to do I had to take a pill. I had to have surgery to remove it, the tumor, and my thyroid as well, along with all the lymph nodes. And that caused some secondary issues where something called Horner syndrome, where I no longer sweat from the left side of my body, don't produce enough tears from the left side of my left eye, and I feel like this constant tingling in my neck area. So that was one of the reasons why I could no longer become or stay a fireman. I had to retire medically because I wouldn't be able to wear, excuse me, I wouldn't be able to wear the uniform that would protect us from the fire because I would overheat and my body didn't cool down normally as a normal person would. So that was the problem with that. But yet and still, I kept doing what I had to do as a fireman until they kicked me out.
Yeah.
But it was a long career and it was well worth it.
Now, was there any point where you said to yourself, okay, this is 15 years ago. Did you even immediately link it to or connect it to 9/11?
Initially, I didn't, but when I realized that, so many other firemen like myself were getting these same types of cancers, there was a pattern there to show that, I'm not the only one. So it was a problem.
Yeah. Now, what was your family's reaction to the diagnosis? How were they feeling at that moment?
Wow. So, unfortunately, when I think of my family, I think of my kids, a significant other, my mom. Unfortunately, my mom had passed a couple of years after 9/11. So thankfully, she didn't get to see the suffering that I went through. But it was a very challenging, scary time. I wish she was there for me to kind of console me and stuff. But it was a very lonely time, and But I always tried to save face and didn't want my 3 daughters now, which I have, and I didn't want any of them to see what I was dealing with. So I kind of kept most of that to myself. And so probably would have been best to share some of that, but that's my character. I tend to keep a lot of things to myself and deal with it myself.
Yeah.
So they really didn't know too much later.
Yeah.
And once I knew I had weathered the storm, so to speak, and I was doing much better and responding well to treatment, and that's when I released, your dad survived cancer, right?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. But my daughters they're very loving and empathetic, and they mean a lot to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely, man. No, I mean, I haven't been through what you've been through, but I definitely just like even thinking about my daughter from day to day, just what she means to me as well. And for people who watch this podcast and listen to this podcast, they know what she means to me.
Right.
So what role we just went over that support system. Looking back, what lessons have you taken from surviving both 9/11 and cancer?
What lessons? Well, it might seem, like it's cliche, right? It's a word, but, life is short, right? It definitely is short, and you should try our best to foster good relationships with people, take care of each other. And it's funny, my girlfriend now, she loves Bad Bunny, right? She goes, he has a song that says, you should take more pictures. And in that regard, I agree with that. Take more pictures.
You released your 6th studio album. It's called Devi Tirar Mas Fotos. It means I should have taken more photos?
Debí tirar más foto, I should take more picture, but really means that I should appreciate more the people who is around me, people who love me, and it's all about that, like appreciate more the bless that we're here right now.
Yeah.
Remember the small things.
Yeah.
Try to keep close to your heart the things that are special to you, especially family.
Yeah.
Because you never know, one day, and it doesn't have to be a disaster. It doesn't have to be some crazy deranged lunatic. You could be crossing the street and, someone falls asleep behind the wheel.
Yeah.
And that's it. You're done.
What got me really thinking about the finality of things and how quickly things can change. Just like this week, just reflecting on that, not to mention this, but the whole Charlie Kirk thing. Just thinking about that, like how he went there thinking that he was just going to do another talk, answer some questions. And, I don't think he knew that was going to be his last day there. So I think you're definitely right. I think your girlfriend's definitely right. Like take more pictures, like definitely try to cherish the things that, are really important to you. You know what I'm saying? So how do you continue to honor the memory of those who were lost while still focusing on your own health and future?
I don't know if those two really go together hand in hand simultaneously. But the fire department has a very close-knit community, and we're constantly doing not only memorial services on 9/11, but just remembrances of individuals that may have served in your house or battalion, memorial dinners and outings, and some of them might seem like light-hearted stuff, like a golf outing or something, but it really is to remember those we lost. Often to raise monies for their families. I mean, you see like this, the Steven Siller Foundation that was born out of, love from his family,
Right.
basically. And today that organization, they help countless individuals, both in the military and in the public service sector. So, it's just, those types of things are well worth in terms of, I'm sorry, the other part of your question.
Yeah, just like in terms of like when you're focusing on honoring those other individuals that you work with, how are you like still focusing on your health and your future? Like, how do you move forward? Like, I know you still have family that's there to support you and friends that are there to support you, but how do you collectively honor those individuals while still working and focusing on your future?
Okay, well, since I'm retired now, I don't have the same close connection to some of the folks that I used to have, but like I said, they are constantly call me up for events, and we had a dear friend of ours, John Malley, who suffered a stroke some time ago from the firehouse, and it's about maybe a year ago now. And we've been to his house, we've helped him at the hospital. We've helped build him as a unit, as a firehouse. We take turns and go visiting him, just to show that we're still close-knit family, even though I've retired years ago now, but, and so has he, but it's just something that we do as firefighters. It's been ingrained in us since day one. Like, you're a unit, you're a team. No matter what happens moving forward down the line, you're gonna need each other. And as far as me moving forward, like, well, I've already moved forward. I have some other line of work that I do now that keeps me pretty busy. It's part time, but it keeps me busy. And I don't really take the negative stuff that I experience at any job home. So in order for me to move forward, you got to be good at compartmentalizing things. You got to be good at, say, okay, this was a bad day at work.
Yeah.
Let's leave that there. We'll address it tomorrow when I get back to work. Cause so many people, can't do that, and, firefighters have a way. We kind of know when we go through a really bad experience, we only speak to each other about it. And sometimes it's not even something that people like to hear, because we may joke about something amongst ourselves. I was like, wow, that guy had a bad day. And, we'll say whatever.
Yeah.
But we would never say that in public. But that's just amongst ourselves, because we understand each other, and we understand what we've seen, what we've witnessed. There aren't too many, occupations where, you see death on a regular basis and you're there at someone's last minutes, whether it's someone pinned in a train, someone, I've seen people jump off bridges. I've seen people, mutilated, stabbed to death, murdered, all kinds of stuff in both EMS and fire. People burned to death, people, and, when you see that, what's the word I'm looking for? You get kind of cold and callous to seeing that, you lose that sympathy. And some people would say, oh, you're kind of crass and not empathetic, but it's kind of like our force field. It's like our shield.
Yes.
Because if we don't do that,
then it's going to be hard to do your job.
We're going to be hard to do our job. We're going to be a mess,
Yeah.
So we have to kind of learn how to put up those walls. And not too many other people understand that. Police understand that. People at the EMS, they understand that. Military understands that. That's, and then unfortunately, sometimes our significant others don't understand that. So that's another line you kind of have to, like, listen, I had a tough day at work, and this is what I dealt with. And,
Do you feel like your daughters break that wall down?
They don't know enough about my job.
No, I'm saying, like, for you, like, like emotionally, like all the stuff that you're trying to hold inside, like the stuff that you're trying to ignore in terms of the negative stuff.
Oh, like, absolutely. Yeah. In that regard, because I could just look at my kid, she'll put a smile on my face.
Right.
My oldest, it doesn't matter what kind of day I have. So they'll call me. They're all older now. They're in college now. But even when they were young, I would just talk to them on the phone, or they'd come running through the door to my arms. Doesn't matter what happened that day.
Right.
I feel like $1 million.
Yeah.
So you need those sort of connections and relationships in order to really appreciate what you have, you know, and what you're doing that for. Because, that whole putting your life on the line, that's who you're really doing it for.
Oh yeah.
To maintain an income for those families and raising them, right? So yeah.
And I feel like I've always appreciated, I've been in New York now for about almost 20 years. And I've always appreciated just seeing the fire department, like, come into the supermarket, right? And they're shopping together. And so that was just something I always wondered, like, was this something that the department encourages and says, hey, y'all need to go and buy stuff as a unit together? Or is that something that individual firefighters are saying, like, okay, let's do this? Like, is this something that is mandated by the department?
It's not, I wouldn't say it's mandated. It's just tradition. Ever since, we were on, responding to fires on a horse-driven carriage, just for the life of us, we've been cooking in firehouses. And as the fire department became more of an, official city capacity, they started to say, okay, you don't really have a lunch break. That's, people don't understand that. We don't get lunch break. We don't get any stipends, money. We do it out of our own pockets. But we try to run in between breaks. We try to run in between calls and get the food. And generally, like, if you have let's say a double house, which meaning you have a fire engine and a fire truck, one of those either or will prepare the meal. And then hopefully, if one of them has to go out, the other one will jump in and finish the meal.
Right.
So, but we're really good cooks, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Wow. Now, following that cancer diagnosis, how has it made you more aware of trying to be healthier in terms of like how you eat, activity and moving? Like how more conscious are you of that following the diagnosis?
Very much so. I will say, in all honesty, we're being transparent. When you get that kind of diagnosis early on, you're doing everything. You're praying to God, say, I'm sorry. What can I do to make things better? And, you're eating nothing but vegetables. You're eating the stuff there that they've told you that's going to help.
Right.
But sometimes, you get a little lackadaisical and you forget, like, oh, I'm going to have that pork chop today.
Yeah.
But, usually I'm doing a lot better in terms of my health and education, and educating myself as to what what foods are best to keep me in good condition. I'm an old guy. I'm 52 years old,
right.
But I think I'm holding up pretty well.
Yeah.
And I'm trying my best. I just joined the gym again in my new home, and I'm trying to get on the track at least 3 or 4 times a week. Starting little by little lift weights again. So this is something that I do periodically. I might stop for a while, but then it's in the background. As a Marine, I've always been told, physical fitness is important. So it's not something I'm ever going to forget about totally.
Yeah. Now, if you were to think about your legacy, both as a firefighter and as a cancer survivor, what do you hope people take away from your story?
I don't know if I see myself as someone leaving a legacy. I'm just another person, another New Yorker who survived a tragedy that took so many lives on 9/11. I'm just another person, but that's really hard to answer. I don't know. I don't see myself any different from anybody else. But I will say that cancer in itself is a very it's a tough disease to deal with, and there's so many types. Obviously, some are worse than others. I would just like to be a proponent of someone who, you can put that word out there. You should take care of yourself as best as you can. I know some of it is genetic, and there's not much that could be done, but some of it is lifestyle choices. Some of it is, what you're putting into your body. Some of it is your habits. So if you can do just one thing a little different that may change the course of, any future cancer diagnosis, and you should do it. The literature's out there. You can read up on it. You can take the time to talk to your doctor, talk to your, physicians, oncologists, what have you, and they'll tell you this is what you could do. These are the things you can eat. This is what the regimen you should be under to stop that, especially if you have that in your family.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I'm wondering is, because I know for most people, they say it's either fair flight or like that flight or fight response, right? And for you were saying that you're like, hey, I have on the wrong uniform. Like, we should be out here fighting.
Yeah, I was angry. I remember being angry.
And, I don't think the average person, I think for you having that Marine background, I don't think the average person in that situation, like some people are like, oh no, I need to get out of here. Like you look over some of the videos from that day, I hear one guy, he's just like swearing like, oh shoot, like what's this? And like he's trying to get out of there. Apart from your Marine background, what do you think internally led to you to kind of kick into fight mode versus like, would you say it was a combination of fight mode, but then also like self-preservation at the same time?
Yeah. Hey, I don't want anyone to get me wrong and honest. Everybody was scared that day.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sit here and be like, oh, I wasn't scared. No, everybody was scared. But because of my background, because of my previous experiences, because of that, and I know, I think the military had a lot to do with that, but also my upbringing, just being a tough kid in the Bronx, just growing up, having to fight for what you believe, having to fight for, not getting robbed, and having a strong-willed mother that would say, hey, do what's right. And at that, maybe those things may not sound like they would affect you directly at that moment, but they kind of build a character. And I think I'm a strong-willed person that if I think we have an opportunity to save somebody, then I think we should take that opportunity regardless of what the outcome might be to us.
Yeah.
You know, that's our job. That's what people pay us for, you know, to take that risk. And we know that in the military, in the Marines, we have a funny saying. So USMC stands for United States Marine Corps. We like to say is you signed a MFN contract. You know, like, so either way, you know, this is what you signed up for. This is what you got to do. You knew this going in. This is not a surprise. You knew that you could potentially die. So
Yeah.
when the reality of a situation like that hits, then, you know, sure, it's scary, but, you know, at the end of the day, who else is going to do it?
Yeah.
You know, just someone's got to step up, and somebody's got to do whatever has to be done.
Yeah. And, you know, Richard, even though I was not here on that day, I was still living in Barbados. You know, I definitely want to thank you for your service, and definitely your service in the Marines, but definitely your service on that day, and just kicking into action and helping people where you could, you know, and, you know, I think everyone is definitely grateful for what you were able to do that day.
Thank you.
You know, so, well, guys, this is it for the I Choose Health podcast. Just reminding you that choosing health is about choosing power, possibility, and purpose. And, you know, we definitely focus on resilience, and definitely Richard's experience reminds us of that. So anytime like you're feeling like you're not able to get through life or the difficulties that are coming your way, just remember that you're more resilient and more powerful than you think you are. And guys, just remember to get more videos like this, remember to subscribe, like, comment, you know, please support our channel as we're continuing to grow. Again, this is Stephen Leslie with the I Choose Health podcast. Thank you for tuning in. This is week 24 of 52 Choices. We're saying to take a walk after dinner. A brief walk after dinner isn't just common, it helps your body process food more efficiently. Studies show that walking 10 to 15 minutes post-meal reduces postprandial blood sugar spikes by up to 30%. A 2013 study in diabetes care found short post-meal walks significantly lower glucose compared to one longer daily walk. A 2016 meta-analysis in diabetologia confirmed that light activity after meals consistently reduces postprandial glucose and insulin levels. Even in healthy adults, research in sports medicine highlights after-dinner walking as one of the simplest ways to regulate blood sugar. So your choice for this week? Take a light stroll after dinner. Even a few minutes makes a measurable difference.